Dr. Kim Dae looked up from his datapad as another series of beeps echoed through the research lab. The sounds came from the containment units, where they kept various alien specimens. He'd been working on Galactic Research Station Epsilon 7. For 3 months now, the routine was starting to feel normal. The station orbited a small moon in neutral space, far from any major civilizations. It was the perfect place for the Galactic Council to study new species without causing diplomatic problems. Kim Dae was one of only 12 humans on the station. The rest of the crew consisted of various alien species, most of whom still seemed nervous around humans. Commander Ilix entered the lab through the main doors. The Vexstar moved with quick, jerky motions that reminded Kim Dae of a praying mantis. His large compound eyes swept the room before settling on the human scientist. Dr. Kim Ilix said in his clicking voice, "The behavioral analysis reports are due today. Have you finished studying the new specimens from Sector 7? Kim Dae nodded and gestured toward the containment units. "Yes, Commander." The creatures showed typical prey responses when threatened. They either freeze, hide, or try to escape. Nothing unusual. Ilix made a clicking sound that Kim Dae had learned meant approval. The Vexstar species had evolved from insect-like creatures that spent most of their time hiding from predators. Like most species in the galaxy, their first instinct when facing danger was to run away or hide. "Good," Ilix said. "The Council wants to understand how different species react to threats. This information helps us predict behavior during first contact situations." Kim Dae saved his work and stood up. "I still don't understand why the Council is so interested in threat responses. Most intelligent species have moved beyond basic survival instincts." Alex's antennae twitched. "You would be surprised, Dr. Kim. Even the most advanced civilizations still carry their evolutionary programming. A prey species will always think like prey, just as a predator species will always think like a predator." Before Kim Dae could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed on the walls, and an automated voice announced, "Containment breach in Research Lab 3. All personnel evacuate immediately. This is not a drill." Commander Ilix immediately dropped to a crouched position, his body trembling. "Code 7 emergency," he whispered. "We must evacuate now." Kim Dae looked toward the direction of Lab 3. He could hear sounds of destruction coming from that area. What kind of specimens were they keeping in Lab 3? "Apex predators from the Rigel system," Ilix said, still crouched low. "Highly aggressive. Extremely dangerous. We must reach the emergency pods immediately." The commander began moving toward the nearest emergency exit, staying low and close to the walls. His movements were quick, but careful, like an animal trying not to attract attention while escaping danger. Kim Dae started to follow. But then he heard something that made him stop. It was a human voice calling for help. "Help. Someone help us. We're trapped in Lab 3. The voice belonged to Nurse Hans Sol, human medical officer who had been conducting health checks on the research team in Lab 3. Kim. They could hear the desperation in her voice. Commander Ilix had reached the emergency exit. He turned back and saw Kim Dae standing still in the middle of the lab. "Dr. Kim, what are you doing? We must evacuate now." Kim Dae looked at the emergency exit, then looked toward Lab 3. He could hear Sol calling for help again, and now he could hear other voices too. At least 3 researchers were trapped in that lab with dangerous predators on the loose. "Commander? There are people trapped in Lab 3. We need to help them." Alex's compound eyes widened. "No, the emergency protocol is clear. When apex predators escape containment, all personnel must evacuate immediately. Rescue teams will handle the situation." "They might not get here in time," Kim Dae said. He walked over to the emergency supply cabinet and pulled out a medical kit and a portable plasma cutter. "Sol is in there." Commander Ilix watched in complete shock as Kim Dae began walking toward Lab 3, directly toward the danger. "Dr. Kim, stop. You are walking toward the predators. Your survival instincts are malfunctioning." Kim Dae paused at the lab entrance. "My survival instincts are working fine, Commander. But sometimes survival means helping others survive too." He disappeared into the corridor leading to Lab 3. Ilix remained frozen by the emergency exit. his mind unable to process what he had just witnessed. In his entire life, he had never seen any intelligent being voluntarily walk toward apex predators. Through the security monitors, Ilex watched Kim Dae make his way through the damaged corridors. The escaped specimens were large, cat-like creatures with razor-sharp claws and teeth. They had already destroyed most of Lab 3 and were prowling the area, looking for prey. Any normal being would hide and wait for the predators to leave. But Kim Dae did something that made Ilex's antennae curl with terror. He began tracking the predators, following their movements and learning their patterns, when one of the creatures appeared in front of him. Blocking the path to the trapped researchers, Kim Dae did not run. He did not freeze. He did not hide. Instead, he made himself larger, spreading his arms wide and making loud noises. The predator, confused by this unexpected response, actually backed away. Ilex watched the monitors in amazement as Kim Dae continued toward Lab 3. The human moved with purpose and determination, never hesitating, never showing fear. When he reached the trapped researchers, he immediately began helping them escape through a damaged wall panel. Nurse Han Sol was injured, but conscious. "Dae, you shouldn't have come here. It's too dangerous." "I couldn't leave you," Kim Dae replied. Simply, he helped Sol to her feet and began guiding the group toward a maintenance tunnel that would lead them to safety. As they moved through the tunnel, one of the predators detected their scent and began following them. Ilex expected the humans to panic, to run faster, to abandon the injured. Instead, Kim Dae told the others to continue toward the exit while he stayed behind. He positioned himself between the predator and the escaping group, holding the plasma cutter like a weapon. The predator approached slowly, sensing that this strange creature was different from normal prey. Kim Dae stood his ground, maintaining eye contact with the beast. For several long minutes, human and predator faced each other in the narrow tunnel. Finally, the predator turned and left, apparently deciding that this unusual creature was more trouble than it was worth. Kim Dae rejoined the group and helped them reach the emergency pods. Within minutes, the station's security team arrived and contained the remaining escaped specimens. Later, as medical teams treated the injured researchers, Commander Ilex approached Kim Dae. The Vexstar's compound eyes studied the human with new interest. "Dr. Kim," Ilex said slowly, "I have been observing species behavior for 20 years. I've never seen anything like what you did today." Kim Dae shrugged. "I just helped some colleagues. It's what anyone would do." Said firmly, "It is not what anyone would do. Prey species flee from predators. They do not walk toward them. They do not hunt them. They do not challenge them directly." Kim Dae looked confused. "Hunt them? I wasn't hunting anything. I was just helping Sol and the others." Ilex's antennae twitched rapidly, a sign of deep thought. "Dr. Kim, may I ask you something? When you saw those predators, what was your first instinct?" "To help the people who were trapped," Kim Dae answered without hesitation. "But did you feel fear?" Kim Dae considered this. "Yes, I felt fear, but fear doesn't mean you run away. Sometimes fear means you need to act." Commander Ilex made several clicking sounds. In his mind, he was already composing his report to the Galactic Council. Today he had witnessed something that challenged everything they thought they knew. About intelligent species behavior, humans, it seemed, were not prey animals at all. They were something far more complex and, in Ilex's opinion, far more dangerous than anyone had realized. As Kim Dae walked away to check on Sol's medical treatment, Ilex began to wonder what other surprises the human species might hold. One thing was certain: the Galactic Council's understanding of humanity would need to be completely revised. The first clue had been revealed. Humans did not run from danger. They ran toward it. Captain Parkman checked her equipment one final time as the shuttle descended toward the forest moon of Kepler 4 for to be. The exploration mission was supposed to be routine: map the terrain, collect samples, and establish whether the moon could support a research outpost. Beside her sat Physic, a quaint-eyed scout whose rabbit-like ears twitched nervously as they approached the surface. His species had evolved on grasslands where quick escapes from predators meant survival. On her other side, Velix the Mordant tracker kept his large deer-like eyes focused on the forest canopy below. His people were natural prey animals who had learned to read danger signs from great distances. The scans show several large predator species in this region, Velix said in his soft, musical voice. We should establish camp in an open area where we can see threats approaching. Min nodded as she studied the landing zone. There's a clearing about 2 kilometers from the main forest. We can set up base camp there and work our way inward. Physic's nose twitched. Captain Min, I must ask again. Are you certain we need to explore the forest interior? The most valuable minerals are near the surface in the open areas. Over the past few weeks working with them, she had noticed their strong preference for avoiding dense vegetation and enclosed spaces. It made sense for their species, but it also limited their exploration capabilities. The biodiversity data we need can only be collected from the forest ecosystem, Min explained. Don't worry, we have emergency beacons, and the shuttle will monitor our position at all times. The landing went smoothly, and within 2 hours, they had established a basic camp in the clearing. Min set up the communications array while Physic and Velix arranged the emergency shelters and supply caches. Both aliens worked quickly and efficiently, but Min noticed they kept glancing at the forest edge with obvious anxiety. As the local sun began to set, Min prepared to start cooking. Fire. She had just gathered some dry wood when Velix's ears suddenly perked up straight. Movement in the forest, he whispered. Large predators, at least 3 of them. Physic immediately dropped into a crouch, his powerful legs ready to spring away from danger. We should retreat to the shuttle. Call for emergency extraction. Min stood still and listened. She could hear something moving through the underbrush, but it was still distant. How far away are they? Perhaps 500 meters, Velix replied, his voice tight with fear. They're moving in our direction. The sounds grew closer. Through the trees, Min could see shapes moving in the shadows. They were large, 4-legged creatures with the build of big cats, but the size of bears. Their eyes reflected the dying sunlight as they circled the camp. Physic began backing toward the shuttle. Captain, we need to evacuate now. These are apex predators. Our presence has attracted them. One of the creatures emerged from the forest edge, its massive head low and its eyes fixed on the camp. It was followed by 2 others. They moved with the confident stride of hunters who feared nothing. Velix was already running toward the emergency beacon. I'm calling for immediate extraction. We cannot defend against these predators. But Min did something that made both aliens freeze in terror. Instead of running toward the shuttle or calling for help, she picked up her survey pack and began walking toward the predators. Captain Min, Physic screamed. What are you doing? You're going the wrong direction. The lead predator saw Min approaching and let out a low growl, crouched slightly, preparing to charge. Min stopped about 50 meters away and stood perfectly still, watching the creature. For several long seconds, human and predator stared at each other. The beast expected its prey to run, triggering its chase instinct. But Min just stood there, calm and patient. Confused, the predator took a few steps forward, then stopped again. Min took 1 step toward it. Creature backed up slightly, uncertain about this strange behavior. She's challenging an apex predator, Velix whispered in disbelief. Her survival instincts are completely broken. The predator circled to Min's left, looking for an opening to attack. Min turned to keep facing it, never showing her back. The creature tried circling to the right. Min followed its movement, maintaining eye contact. After several minutes of this standoff, the predator lost patience. It charged directly at Min with incredible speed. Physic closed his eyes, unable to watch what he was certain would be a brutal death. But Min didn't run. She didn't freeze. She stepped aside at the last moment and used the predator's momentum against it, causing the massive creature to stumble. Past her as it recovered and turned for another attack, Min began walking away from the camp, deeper into the forest. What is she doing? Velix asked in horror. The predator followed Min, stalking her as she moved steadily through the trees. But instead of running in panic like normal prey, Min maintained a steady walking pace. She didn't sprint. She didn't try to climb or hide. She just kept walking, always staying just far enough ahead to avoid the predator's charges. The other two predators joined the hunt, excited by what they thought would be an easy kill. All three creatures began chasing Min through the forest, expecting her to tire quickly and become an easy meal. But something strange began to happen. After 30 minutes of pursuit, the predators started breathing heavily. Were panting. After 2 hours, they began to slow down. Min, meanwhile, maintained her steady pace. She breathed easily and showed no signs of exhaustion. When the predators tried to rest, she kept walking, forcing them to continue the chase or lose their prey. Physic and Velix watched through the drone cameras as this impossible hunt continued through the night. They had called off the emergency extraction when they realized Min was not in immediate danger, but they couldn't understand what they were witnessing. "How is she still moving?" Physic asked. She's been walking for 6 hours without rest." Velix studied the drone footage with growing amazement. "Look at the predators. They're exhausted. 2 of them have already stopped following her." Indeed, the 3 massive predators were now struggling to keep up with Min's relentless pace. Their tongues hung out as they panted heavily. One had collapsed beside a stream to drink water. Another had stopped to rest under a large tree. The original predator still followed Min, but even it was showing signs of extreme fatigue. Its powerful muscles trembled with exhaustion. Its breathing was labored. As dawn broke over the forest moon, Min led the remaining predator back toward the base camp. The creature could barely walk. Its head hung low, and it stumbled frequently. When they reached the clearing, the exhausted predator looked at Min one final time, then turned and limped back into the forest. Min walked into camp as if she had just returned from a casual morning stroll. She wasn't even breathing hard. Physic and Velix stared at her in complete shock. "Captain Min," Velix said slowly, "what did you just do?" Min pulled out her water bottle and took a drink. "I led them away from camp so they wouldn't bother us. While we work?" "But you walked all night," Physic said, his voice barely a whisper. "You outran apex predators without running." Min looked confused. "I didn't outrun them. I just kept moving until they got tired and gave up." The 2 aliens exchanged glances full of terror and awe. In their species' history, no creature had ever exhausted a predator through persistence. It was impossible. Prey animals were supposed to tire quickly, while predators had bursts of incredible speed and strength. "How long could you have continued walking?" Velix asked. Min shrugged. "All day if necessary." "Maybe longer. Humans are built for endurance." Engineer Lee Jun had been monitoring the entire event from the shuttle. His hands shook as he compiled his report. He had recorded something that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. The humans weren't just broken prey animals. They were something far more terrifying than anyone had imagined. They were persistence predators. Creatures that could literally hunt their prey to death through sheer endurance. As Min began preparing breakfast, Physic and Velix huddled together near their emergency shelter. Both aliens were trying to process what they had witnessed. "She turned the hunt around," Physic whispered. "She made the predators into prey." Velix nodded slowly. "She never stopped moving, never showed fear, never tried to escape. She just kept going." From their perspective, Min had demonstrated the most terrifying hunting technique imaginable. She had taken creatures that could kill her in seconds and exhausted them to helpless submission through nothing but patience and endurance. Neither alien slept that day. They kept watching Min with new eyes, seeing her not as a fellow explorer, but as something far more dangerous than the apex predators that ruled this forest moon. The second piece of the puzzle had fallen into place. Humans didn't just fail to run from predators, they could make predators run from them. Ambassador Choi Na stood at the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge as it traveled through deep space. She was leading a trade delegation to the Outer Rim worlds, accompanied by representatives from 12 different herbivorous species. The mission was supposed to establish new commercial partnerships and strengthen galactic unity. Dr. Yunhai joined her at the viewing window, carrying a cup of tea and looking relaxed despite their long journey. As the human cultural attaché, Hai's job was to help the alien delegates understand human customs and avoid diplomatic misunderstandings. "How are our guests adjusting to the ship?" Na asked. Hai smiled. "Better than expected. Though I notice they still seem nervous when we walk through the corridors. They keep asking why we don't use the transport pods for short distances." Na laughed softly. "Walking makes them uncomfortable. Their species see it as inefficient energy. For them, movement should have a clear purpose. Getting to safety or finding food." The two humans were interrupted by a soft chiming sound from the ship's communication system. Captain Singh's voice came through the speakers. "All passengers, we're experiencing minor technical difficulties with our navigation systems. Expect repairs to be completed within 2 hours." Na wasn't concerned. Space travel always had minor delays. But she noticed that several of the alien delegates immediately gathered in the main lounge, speaking in hushed, worried tones. Whistle, a phlegmy diplomat who resembled a large rabbit, approached Na with obvious anxiety. "Ambassador Choi, should we be concerned about these technical problems? Are we safe?" "Completely safe," Na assured him. "These ships have multiple backup systems. A navigation delay is just inconvenient, not dangerous." But Whistle's large ears kept twitching, and his nose moved constantly as he tested the air for signs of danger. Like most Flaumi, he had evolved from creatures that lived in constant fear of predators. Even in the safety of a starship, his instincts remained alert. 20 minutes later, those instincts proved correct. Alarms began blaring throughout the ship, and Captain Singh's voice returned. But now tense and urgent. "All passengers, this is an emergency. We are under attack by unidentified vessels. Proceed immediately to designated safe rooms and remain there until further notice." The response was immediate and predictable. Every alien delegate scattered in different directions, following their species' natural panic responses. Some, like the rabbit-like Flenmi, began looking for small spaces to hide. Others, like the deer-like Morden, froze in place, hoping to avoid detection. The bird-like Trilxie flew to high perches near the ceiling. Within seconds, the corridors were empty of alien life. Everyone had found hiding places or sealed themselves in their quarters. Everyone except the humans. Na and Hai stood in the main lounge, calmly assessing the situation. Through the observation windows, they could see 3 smaller vessels approaching rapidly. The ships had the rough, patchwork appearance of pirate vessels. "Space pirates," Hai said matter-of-factly. "They probably targeted us because they think a diplomatic vessel will be easy prey." Na nodded. "They're wrong. Can you access the ship's internal communication system?" "Already on it," Hai replied, moving to a control panel. Her fingers moved quickly across the interface. "I can patch into the security network from here." This was when the hidden aliens witnessed something that would haunt their dreams for months to come. Instead of hiding or calling for help, the 2 humans began to organize. Na spoke into the communication system with calm authority. "Captain Singh, this is Ambassador Choi. Dr. Yoon and I are coordinating passenger safety. What's the status of ship security?" Captain Singh's surprised voice came back. "Ambassador, you should be in a safe room. The security team will handle this." "How many security personnel do you have?" Na asked. "For guards, plus myself and 2 bridge crew." "The pirates have at least 15 people." Na and Hai exchanged glances. Without speaking, they both began moving through the ship with purpose. But they weren't running toward safety. They were moving toward the docking bays where the pirates would board. Whistle watched through a ventilation grate as the 2 humans walked calmly through corridors that should have been empty. He couldn't understand what he was seeing. Prey. Animals didn't move toward danger. They hid and waited for rescue. "Hi, do you remember the emergency protocols from your military training?" Na asked as they walked. "Standard boarding defense," Hai replied. "Control the entry points. Divide their forces, eliminate their advantages." They spoke in the same calm tones they used during diplomatic meetings. as if they were discussing trade agreements rather than preparing for combat with armed pirates. The aliens hiding throughout the ship listened in growing terror as the humans continued their conversation through the communication system. The main docking bay will be their primary entry point, Nas said. But they'll send a smaller team through the emergency airlock on Deck 3. I'll take Deck 3, Hai replied. You coordinate the main bay defense? They were splitting up. It's violated every survival instinct known to civilized species. When facing overwhelming force, intelligent beings stayed together, found hiding places, and waited for help. The pirates docked successfully and began boarding the ship in 2 groups, just as Na had predicted. The first group of 12 pirates moved confidently through the main corridors, expecting to find cowering passengers and minimal resistance. Instead, they found Na. She stood in the middle of a corridor intersection, completely alone, holding an emergency plasma cutter in one hand and a portable shield generator in the other. The pirates stopped, confused by this unexpected sight. Surrender now, Na said calmly, and you will not be harmed. The pirate leader laughed. 1 human against 12 of us? You must be insane. What happened next would be analyzed by xenobiologists for decades. Na didn't retreat or call for backup. Instead, she began what could only be described as a tactical assault. She moved through the corridors systematically, using her knowledge of the ship's layout to separate the pirates and attack them individually. When they tried to group together, she forced them into narrow passages where their numbers meant nothing. When they tried to spread out, she appeared behind them with terrifying precision. The pirates, who were used to facing panicked prey that ran in predictable directions, found themselves dealing with something completely different. Na didn't run from them, she stalked them. Meanwhile, Hai was demonstrating similar behavior on Deck 3. The 3 pirates who had entered through the emergency airlock expected to move through empty corridors. Instead, they found themselves being hunted by a single human, who seemed to know exactly where they were at all times. The hidden aliens watched through security monitors. As the 2 humans systematically eliminated the pirate threat, they didn't fight like individuals defending themselves. They coordinated like a pack of hunters taking down prey. Nah, I have 2 pirates cornered near the engine room. Hai reported calmly. Copy that. I'm driving the main group toward section C. Can you intercept? On my way. They communicated constantly, sharing information and coordinating their movements. The pirates found themselves being herded like livestock, driven into areas where the humans wanted them to go. Within 30 minutes, all 15 pirates had been captured or neutralized. Not one had escaped or reached the passenger areas, Captain. Singh arrived with his security team to find Na and Hai calmly restraining the last group of pirates. Both humans were slightly out of breath, but otherwise unharmed. How did you do this? Captain Singh asked in amazement. There are only 2 of you. Na wiped sweat from her forehead. You work together, it's what humans do. But to the aliens, hiding throughout the ship, what they had witnessed wasn't cooperation. It was pack-hunting behavior of the most sophisticated kind. The humans had demonstrated coordination, communication, and tactical thinking that surpassed anything seen in known predator species. Whistle emerged from his hiding place with trembling legs. Ambassador Choi, he said in a shaky voice, I've never seen anything like what you just did. We just protected everyone on the ship, Na replied. It's our responsibility as the diplomatic team, but you hunted them, Whistle whispered. You coordinated the hunt like apex predators securing territory. Na looked confused. We defended the ship. It's completely different. Dr. Hai noticed the terrified expressions on all the alien faces. Are you all okay? No one was hurt, right? The aliens nodded silently, but their body language spoke of deep fear. They had just witnessed something that challenged their understanding of intelligent behavior. Civilized beings didn't hunt. They didn't coordinate attacks. They didn't turn their living space into hunting grounds. But humans did. As the ship continued toward its destination, the alien delegates huddled together. In small groups, speaking in whispers about what they had seen. Their reports to their home governments would describe humans not as diplomatic partners, but as coordinated pack hunters who could transform from peaceful ambassadors to apex predators within minutes. The third piece of the puzzle was now in place. Humans didn't just chase individual threats, they worked together in ways that made them the most efficient hunters anyone had ever seen, and they did it while thinking they were simply helping others. Counselor Bang Wu walked through the massive corridors of the High Council chambers on Nexus Prime, expecting another routine session about trade regulations and territorial disputes. As Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, she had attended hundreds of these meetings over the past 2 years. Most were boring discussions about mining rights or shipping routes. But when she entered the main chamber, she immediately knew something was different. Instead of the usual scattered seating arrangement, every council member was present and seated in a tight semicircle. Their body language spoke of fear and tension. Many of the herbivorous species representatives were positioned as far from the human section as possible. Chancellor Bramble, a tall deer-like Veltari with elegant antlers, stood at the center podium. His usually calm demeanor was replaced by obvious nervousness. His large eyes kept darting toward Wu as she took her designated seat. "The emergency session will now begin," Bramble announced, his musical voice trembling slightly. "We are here to discuss new evidence regarding the human species and their true nature." Wu frowned. "Chancellor, I wasn't informed this was about humanity. What kind of evidence?" Bramble's antlers shook as he gestured toward the large display screen. "Evidence that suggests we have fundamentally misunderstood what humans are. Counselor Wu, we have been treating your species as fellow evolved prey animals. Recent events suggest this assumption was catastrophically wrong." The main screen activated, showing a compilation of video footage. Wu recognized some of it immediately. The incident at Research Station Epsilon 7, the Forest Moon exploration, and the pirate attack on the diplomatic vessel. Over the past 6 months, Bramble continued, we have documented multiple instances of human behavior that defies all known patterns of intelligent prey species conduct. The first video showed Dr. Kim Day walking directly toward escaped predators while every other species fled to safety. The alien council members made various sounds of distress as they watched the footage. "No prey species voluntarily approaches apex predators," whispered Counselor Zephyr, a bird like Trilxie, whose feathers were puffed up in alarm. "This behavior indicates either severe mental deficiency or predatory instincts." Wu watched the familiar footage with growing confusion. Counselor Zephyr Dr. Kim was rescuing trapped colleagues. It was a heroic action, not predatory behavior. "That is what we initially believed," Bramble replied. "But then we received this report from the Kepler 440b expedition." The screen showed Captain Park Min's 8-hour persistence hunt of the forest predators. The council chamber fell silent as they watched a single human literally exhaust 3 apex predators into submission through nothing but relentless walking. Counselor Pip, a rabbit like Flenme, began trembling visibly. She hunted them. She actually hunted apex predators and won. "Oh, but she didn't hunt them," Wu protested. "She led them away from the camp to protect her team. It was a defensive action." "Counselor Wu," Bramble said gently, "what you call defense we recognize as the most sophisticated hunting technique in galactic history. Your species practices persistence predation, a method so terrifying that we believed it was extinct in intelligent species." The screen changed to show research data, compiled by Dr. Song Min, who appeared via hologram from her xenobiology lab. Song Min was a human scientist who had spent years studying galactic species behavior. Completely unaware that she was now the subject of study herself, "Dr. Song," Bramble addressed the hologram, "please explain your findings about human evolutionary history." Song Min looked confused by the formal atmosphere but began her presentation. "Humans evolved as endurance hunters on Earth. Our ancestors could track and pursue prey animals for days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. We literally ran our prey to death over vast distances." The council chamber erupted in sounds of horror and disbelief. Several smaller species representatives immediately moved further away from Wu's section. "But that's just ancient history," Song Min continued, oblivious to the panic she was causing. "Modern humans rarely use those abilities except for sports, Like marathon running or long-distance hiking? Dr. Song, Bramble asked carefully, how far can a typical human walk or run without stopping? Songmin shrugged. Depends on conditioning, but most humans can walk 20 to 30 kilometers without much difficulty. Trained individuals can cover over 100 kilometers in a day. Some ultramarathon runners can go for days with minimal rest. Counselor Thistle, a plant-like being from the Chloran system, made a sound like wind through dead leaves. Days without rest, they can pursue prey for days. Are you saying humans are the apex predators of their homeworld? Bramble asked. Songmin laughed. Oh no, definitely not apex predators. Humans aren't the strongest or fastest hunters on Earth. We just outlasted everything else. We were persistent predators who could follow wounded animals until they collapsed. But we also domesticated other predators to help us hunt. The word domesticated caused a new wave of panic. The concept of taming wild predators and turning them into hunting companions was beyond terrifying to species that had spent millions of years hiding from hunters. You controlled other predators? Pip asked in a voice barely above a whisper. We turned wolves into dogs over thousands of years, Songmin explained cheerfully. Dogs became our hunting partners, and eventually our companions. We also domesticated horses for transportation and cats for pest control. The hologram showed images of humans with various domestic animals. To the council members, it looked like evidence of the most sophisticated predator-prey manipulation in galactic history. Dr. Lim Su, another human scientist, joined the hologram discussion. It's important to note that humans didn't just hunt animals to extinction. We were also remarkably good at forming cooperative relationships with other species. Cooperative relationships with prey? Bramble asked. Not exactly prey, Lim Su replied. More like mutual partnerships. Humans protected certain animals and provided them with food and shelter in return. The animals provided milk, eggs, wool, or labor. We called it domestication, but it was really a form of symbiotic relationship. Wu watched the council's reaction with growing alarm. She was beginning to understand that her species' history was being interpreted in the worst possible way. Counselors, she said, standing up, I think there's been a serious misunderstanding. Yes, humans evolved as hunters, but we're not aggressive predators. We're cooperative beings who form partnerships with other species. Counselor Wu, Bramble replied carefully, we have now documented evidence that humans do not flee from danger, can exhaust apex predators through persistence hunting, coordinate pack attacks with terrifying efficiency, and historically dominated their entire planet by controlling other predator species. He paused to let this information sink in. You call cooperation. We recognize as the behavior of apex predators managing their hunting grounds and prey animals. The final piece of evidence appeared on screen. The pirate attack footage showing Na and Hai systematically hunting armed intruders through a starship. This demonstrates coordinated pack hunting behavior, Bramble continued. To humans working together eliminated 15 armed hostiles using tactical coordination we have never seen in herbivorous species. Wu realized the full scope of the problem. Every human action that seemed normal and helpful was being interpreted as predatory behavior by species that had never been predators themselves. The question before this council, Bramble announced, is whether humanity represents a threat to galactic peace. We are dealing with a species that may be the most sophisticated predators in known space, and they are currently expanding their territory throughout the galaxy. Counselor Pip raised a shaking paw. They call it exploration, but is it actually expansion of hunting grounds? Their research stations could be forward bases for territorial expansion, Zephyr added nervously. Their diplomatic missions might be reconnaissance for future hunting operations, Thistle suggested. Wu stood up abruptly. This is completely wrong. Humans are peaceful explorers seeking friendship and cooperation with other species. But her passionate defense only made things worse. To the terrified, herbivorous aliens, her loud voice and assertive posture looked like threat displays from an apex predator. The session ended with the council voting to establish a special committee for human threat assessment. Wu left the chamber in shock, realizing that humanity's greatest strength, their persistence, cooperation, and willingness to face danger had been completely misunderstood by a galaxy of prey species. As she walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime, Wu noticed that other beings gave her a wide berth. Word was already spreading. Humans weren't fellow evolved prey animals. They were something far more dangerous. The fourth piece of the puzzle was complete. The galaxy now knew that humans were persistent predators who could control other predator species and coordinate pack hunts with devastating efficiency. What they didn't understand was that these same traits could be used for protection and cooperation rather than hunting and domination. But that misunderstanding was about to spiral completely out of control. Admiral Kim Haeon stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Fleet flagship New Seoul when the first emergency message arrived. The transmission came from Captain Oh-jin aboard the exploration vessel New Horizon, currently conducting a peaceful first contact mission in the Vega system. Admiral, Captain Oh's voice crackled through the communication system. "We have a serious problem. A Veltari colony ship we were approaching just activated emergency protocols and jumped to hyperspace the moment they detected us." Admiral, Haeon frowned. "Did they give any reason for their departure?" "Negative, sir." They transmitted a single message. "Apex predators detected. Initiating survival protocol 7. Then they vanished. This was the beginning of what would later be called the Great Galactic Panic. Within hours, similar reports flooded in from human ships across the galaxy. Every peaceful contact attempt was met with immediate evacuation protocols. Dr. Bei Yin, the fleet's chief Zenop psychologist, joined Admiral Han on the bridge as more reports arrived. As a specialist in alien behavior patterns, she had been trying to understand the sudden change in galactic attitudes toward humanity. "Admiral, I'm receiving reports from 12 different sectors," she said, reviewing her datapad. "Every human vessel is being treated as a hostile threat, regardless of their mission." Captain Oh's voice returned through the speakers. "Admiral, we just intercepted a general broadcast warning all ships to avoid human vessels. They're calling us territorial apex predators expanding hunting grounds." Admiral Haeon and Dr. Bei exchanged concerned glances. This was far beyond it. Simple diplomatic misunderstanding. "Dr. Bei, what could cause such a widespread reaction?" Admiral Haeon asked. Before she could answer, another transmission arrived. This time from Trade Minister Park Yoon, aboard a commercial vessel near the Rigel. "Trade routes. Admiral Han, this is Minister Park. I'm watching something impossible happen. The entire Rigel commercial hub is being evacuated. Hundreds of ships are fleeing the system, and they're broadcasting warnings about human expansion fleets." Bei activated the main display screen, showing a galactic map with ship movement patterns. What they saw was terrifying. Every major trade route, every colony system, every space station in human proximity was experiencing mass evacuations. "They're not just avoiding us," Dr. Bei realized. "They're fleeing from us like we're some kind of plague." Colonel Siote's voice joined the communications from his position near the Centauri border. "Admiral, I'm monitoring military communications from 6 different species. They're forming defensive alliances specifically against human expansion." "Expansion?" Admiral Haeon asked. "We're not expanding. We're exploring, sir, to prey species." "There might not be a difference," Dr. Bei said grimly. "If they believe we're apex predators, then our exploration fleets look like hunting packs, scouting new territory." The situation became clearer as more reports arrived. The Quaintai had abandoned 3 frontier colonies and retreated to their core systems. The Flenmi were recalling all civilian vessels and activating ancient bunker complexes. The Trilxi had stopped all interstellar travel and were broadcasting continuous distress signals. Admiral Haeon watched the galactic map as entire. Civilizations contracted into defensive positions. How many species are involved in this panic? Dr. Bei's calculations were sobering. At least 47 confirmed species in full evacuation mode. Another 33 have activated military defense protocols. The only species not panicking are those with no direct contact with human space. The most disturbing report came from Lieutenant Commander Jung, who was monitoring diplomatic channels. "Admiral, I'm intercepting communications between the major herbivorous species. They're not just forming defensive alliances. They're sharing intelligence about human military capabilities and discussing preemptive strikes. Preemptive strikes? Admiral Han asked in disbelief. Against peaceful exploration missions? Sir, from their perspective, we might be the greatest threat the galaxy has ever faced, Dr. Bay explained. Prey species have nightmares about coordinated persistence predators. To them, humanity represents their worst evolutionary fears come to life. The scale of the misunderstanding became apparent when Trade Minister Park Yoon transmitted footage from the Rigel hub evacuation. Thousands of ships were fleeing in all directions, many colliding in their panic to escape before the human hunting fleets arrived. Minister Park, Admiral Han asked, "Were there actually any human military vessels in that system?" "Just one scientific research ship studying nebula formations," Park replied. "The new discovery with a crew of 8 researchers and no weapons. Beyond basic defensive systems, one unarmed research vessel had triggered the evacuation of an entire star system." Captain provided another disturbing update. "Admiral, Zaveltari are broadcasting something they call Survival Pattern Alpha. It's apparently an ancient protocol for dealing with apex predator invasions. They're teaching other species how to hide from persistence hunters." Dr. Bay accessed the intercepted broadcasts, and her face went pale. "Admiral, they're sharing detailed guides on how to avoid human detection, how to move without leaving scent trails, how to mask thermal signatures, how to survive in hiding for extended periods. They think we're hunting them," Admiral Han said, the full horror of the situation finally hitting him. The xenopsychologist nodded. "And our continued exploration efforts are being interpreted as systematic hunting behavior. Every time we enter a new system, it looks like we're expanding our hunting territory." Colonel Sute reported the most alarming development yet. "Admiral, I'm detecting military buildup in the outer rim. The herbivorous species are massing. They're combined fleets. Intelligence suggests they're planning coordinated strikes against human colonies. They want to attack us first, before we can hunt them," Dr. Bay explained. "It's the ultimate prey response. Strike the predator before it can establish dominance." Admiral Han realized the galaxy was on the brink of war based on a complete misunderstanding of human nature. Every peaceful human action was being interpreted through the lens of predator behavior. The final confirmation came from monitoring stations near Earth itself. Even ancient, established trade partners were cutting diplomatic ties and recalling their ambassadors. Species that had worked with humans for years were suddenly treating them as existential threats. "Dr. Bay," Admiral Han said, "how did this spiral so far out of control?" "Prey species share information about predators very efficiently," she replied. "Once the first reports identified humans as apex predators, that information spread faster than any official diplomatic communication. Every species in the galaxy now knows that humans are persistence hunters who can exhaust prey, coordinate pack attacks, and dominate other predator species." The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as their peaceful exploration missions were reinterpreted as the most terrifying predatory expansion in galactic history. Admiral Colonel Sute reported, "I'm receiving word that several human colonies near the border are reporting unusual alien ship movements. Looks like reconnaissance flights. They're studying our defensive positions," Dr. Bay realized. "Preparing for military action?" Admiral Han faced an impossible situation. Humanity had become the galaxy's most feared species without firing a single shot or making a single threat. Their natural traits of persistence, cooperation, and courage had been so misunderstood that entire civilizations were preparing for war. Admiral Captain O's voice came through one final time. "The New Horizon just detected a massive fleet movement in our direction. Estimated arrival in 6 hours? They're not trying to communicate." The great galactic panic had reached its peak. A galaxy of prey species was about to attack the most persistent predators they had ever encountered. Not realizing that these predators just wanted to be friends, the 5th piece of the puzzle was complete. The misunderstanding had escalated. Beyond any possibility of simple explanation, war seemed inevitable unless someone could find a way to show the galaxy that human persistence could be used for protection and cooperation rather than hunting and domination, but time was running out, and fear was a much stronger force than hope. President KOJ arrived at Emergency Diplomatic Summit Station Gamanine, aboard the fastest ship in the Earth fleet. The station hung in neutral space, surrounded by the largest gathering of alien warships anyone had ever seen. Hundreds of vessels from dozens of species floated in defensive formations, their weapons powered but not yet aimed at the human delegation. Chief Diplomat Shinri stood beside the president as they observed the massive alien fleet through the viewport. Madam President, I count representatives from 68 different species. This is either the greatest diplomatic opportunity in human history or a final meeting before galactic war. Cultural Liaison 1, Bo, joined them, carrying datapads filled with information about alien customs and protocols. The situation is worse than we thought. Half these species have never spoken to each other before, but fear of humanity has united them completely. President Koje took a deep breath. Then we better figure out how to unite them. Wonbo, what's our opening strategy? Honestly, don't walk toward them, Wonbo replied. Our intelligence suggests that even casual human movement is being interpreted as stalking behavior. The irony was not lost on any of them. Humanity's most basic behaviors had become threatening to an entire galaxy. The diplomatic meeting began in the station's main conference hall, a massive chamber designed to accommodate beings of all sizes and environmental needs. The human delegation entered to find the alien representatives positioned as far away as possible, many hiding behind barriers or protective shields. Chancellor Bramble of the Veltari stood at the center podium, his elegant antlers trembling with obvious fear. President KOJ, we have gathered here to discuss the human threat to galactic peace and to negotiate terms for your species' containment. President KOJ stopped walking immediately, noticing how every alien in the room tensed when she moved. Chancellor Bramble, I believe there has been a serious misunderstanding about human intentions. There is no misunderstanding, replied Counselor Pip, the Flenmi representative whose rabbit-like ears were flat against his head in terror. We have documented evidence of human predatory behavior across multiple star systems. Dr. Namju, the human anthropologist in the delegation, raised his hand carefully. May I ask what specific behaviors you're referring to? The main display screen activated, showing the now familiar footage of Dr. Kim Dae walking toward escaped predators, Captain Parkman persistence hunting forest creatures, and Ambassador Choina coordinating pack attacks against pirates. These videos demonstrate classic apex predator behavior, Chancellor Bramble explained. Pursuit hunting, persistence predation, and coordinated pack attacks. Dr. Namju nodded slowly. I see the confusion now. Yes, those are examples of human behavior, but you're interpreting them incorrectly. Biologist Kang Yu stepped forward, carefully making sure not to move too quickly. Chancellor Bramble, may I explain something about human evolutionary development? The alien delegates murmured nervously, but Bramble gestured for her to continue. Humans did evolve as persistence. Predators, Kang Yu began. But we also evolved something else, the ability to form cooperative relationships with other species. We didn't just hunt animals on our home world. We also protected them, cared for them, and formed partnerships with them. Captain Jungmi, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Would it help if I demonstrated what Dr. Kong means? President Koje looked uncertain. Captain Jung, what kind of demonstration? I brought some friends, Jungmi replied with a slight smile. With careful movements, she activated a communication device. Within minutes, a small transport pod docked with the station. The airlock opened to reveal Captain Jungmi's ship companions. A dog, a cat, and a small bird. The alien delegates watched in stunned silence as the animals approached Jungmi without fear. The dog wagged its tail and sat beside her. The cat rubbed against her legs affectionately. The bird perched on her shoulder. These are Earth animals, Jungmi explained gently. My companions, not my prey. The sight of predator and prey animals voluntarily staying close to a human broke something fundamental in the alien's understanding. Counselor Whistle, the Flenmi diplomat, stared at the dog in disbelief. That creature is a predator. Why does it not attack you or the other animals? Ambassador Rudon stepped forward slowly because humans taught it not to. We formed a partnership. The dog helps us. We care for the dog. The cat controls pests. We provide food and shelter. Bird brings us joy. We protect it from larger predators. The alien delegates began whispering among themselves in dozens of different languages. The concept they were witnessing challenged everything they thought they knew about predator-prey relationships. Dr. Namju seized the moment. This is what human persistence really means. Yes, we chase things, but we don't always chase them to destroy them. Sometimes we chase understanding. Sometimes we chase friendship. Sometimes we chase solutions to problems. Biologist Kang Yu added, when humans explored space, we weren't looking for new hunting grounds. We were looking for new friends, new partners, new species to learn from and cooperate with. Chancellor Bramble's antlers had stopped trembling. You mean to say that human exploration is not territorial expansion? It's relationship expansion? President KOJ replied. We explore because we want to meet new people and learn new things. When we encounter problems, we chase solutions. When we find people in trouble, we chase ways to help them. Captain Jung Mi demonstrated by gently petting the dog, while the cat and bird remained completely calm. Humans can be dangerous when we need to be, but we prefer to be helpful. The breakthrough came when Counselor Pip approached the human delegation slowly. His natural prey instincts told him to stay away, but his curiosity was stronger than his fear. President Kojay, he said carefully, are you saying that humans would chase ways to help, rather than chase ways to hunt? Every time, President. Kojay replied. We chase knowledge. We chase friendships. We chase peace. Yes, we'll chase our enemies if we have to, but we'd much rather chase solutions that help everyone. Dr. Namju pulled up new data on the display screen. Let me show you something else about human behavior. The screen showed footage of human rescue teams during natural disasters, medical teams helping alien species during disease outbreaks, and engineering teams solving infrastructure problems for struggling colonies. This is also human persistence, Dr. Namju explained. We chase problems until we solve them, chase suffering until we end it, we chase conflicts until we resolve them. The alien delegates watched humans persistently helping other species with the same dedication they had shown when hunting predators or fighting pirates. Fleet. Admiral Hongbin stood up carefully. What we're proposing is a new understanding. Humans are persistence cooperators, not just persistence predators. When we chase something, it's because we want to understand it, help it, or partner with it, Ambassador Rudon added. We understand that our behavior appears threatening to prey species. We're willing to establish new protocols for human exploration. We'll announce our intentions clearly, approach slowly, and always lead with offers of cooperation rather than demands. The moment of truth came when Chancellor Bramble made a decision that would reshape galactic history. He stepped closer to the human delegation, overriding millions of years of evolutionary programming that told him to flee from apex predators. President KOJ, he said, would humanity be willing to demonstrate this cooperative persistence? Would you chase a solution to the current crisis? We're already chasing one, President KOJ replied with a smile. We chased this diplomatic meeting. We chased ways to explain our intentions. We're chasing peace. The tension in the room began to dissolve as understanding replaced fear. The alien delegates realized that the same traits that made humans terrifying, predators also made them incredibly dedicated allies. Dr. Ansu, who had been taking notes throughout the meeting, stood up to stretch her legs. Without thinking, she began walking around the conference room, a habit she had developed during long meetings. Every alien eye followed her movement with fascination rather than terror. For the first time, they saw a human walking a simple movement, rather than stalking behavior. The final scene that would be remembered throughout galactic history occurred when Counselor Pip made an unprecedented decision. He approached Dr. Ansu and, fighting every instinct his species possessed, asked if he could walk with her. Together, human and a pre-species alien walked around the conference room while dozens of representatives watched in amazement. It was the first interspecies partnership walk in galactic history. President KOJ established the new Human Integration Protocol that day. Humans would continue exploring and chasing new relationships across the galaxy.
Out.
But with proper communication about their peaceful intentions, the Great Galactic Panic ended, not with warfare, but with the awkward but hopeful realization that the galaxy's most persistent predators were also its most persistent friends, and the most persistent partners anyone could ask for.